Ta-da! Amazing. Number one. Yeah, well, before I talk more about the gold medalists, I would like to mention some others who never managed to get on this list. That might be a bit surprising, since I am a great fan. I already mentioned some bands and artists in the introduction video, but here I could add, well, Pink Floyd, Lauryn Hill, Rolling Stones, Amy Winehouse, Adele, Neil Young, Yes, Yardbirds, Stevie Wonder, Dinah Washington, Freda Payne, Wigwam, Tassavallan, Presidenti, Susie Quattro, Supertramp, Carl Perkins, Don Partridge, Graham Parsons, Vanessa Paradis, Moody Blues, The Meters, Ralph McTell, Manfred Mann's Earth Band, Jacques Lussier Trio, Lindisfarne, Kebnekaise, Pentangle, Lars Holmer, Jimi Hendrix, Genesis, Jesse Fuller, Electric Light Orchestra, Eric Clapton, Clifton Chenier, Can Heat, David Bowie, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Beach Boys, etc., etc., etc. Enough of that. I love them all, but they couldn't qualify for the list. So, back to the gold medal. The band. The band. Formed as a backup group for rock singer Ronnie Hawkins, and for many years called the Hawks. They also were Bob Dylan's backup bands for tours and during the recordings of the Basement tapes that have recently been issued in a very nice way on CD and LP again. The Basement tape with Bob Dylan and the backup group, the band. Well, everybody knows that, of course, but who knows that there were a lot of confusion about what the band was called when the first album Music from Big Pink was issued. They had called themselves the Hawks, the Hunkies, the Crackers. I think I read somewhere, or I think Richard Manuel mentioned in the movie The Last Waltz, so that they signed the record contract with Capitol Records, so they called themselves the Crackers. But when the aforementioned debut album was released, that name had been dropped. Thank heavens. But early 45s had the names of all the group members on the labels, like Robbie Robertson, Garth Hudson, Levon Helm, Richard Manuel, Rick Danko, instead of the group name The Band. So the second album, this one, was issued. I think that it was Capitol that wanted to state that the group had a name, and it was The Band, hence the title of the album. Even though I heard that the name the album had, when they were working on it, the working names, so-called, so to speak, the working name was Harvest. I bet Neil Young is grateful that they never called the album that. The first time I heard about the band was early in the 1990s, when a friendly neighbor borrowed me a huge stack of In His Mind records that had to be part of any good record collection. I guess he was trying to educate me musically, and that was of course a very good idea. Musical education is always good. Even if I can't say that I was ready for that kind of education back then. I have returned to many of the artists that were in that stack of records since then, when I grown older. Some of them even found their way up to this list. Anyway, in that stack of records you could find the triple album The Last Waltz, and I recall that I saw the concert on TV some years later, this time without thinking it was something special, so I have to say it took some time for me to finally get the hang of it. I mentioned it in another video, but it was Norah Jones who finally got me to realize how good the band was. I bought a compilation CD with the band, and shortly thereafter I started buying all their albums. I got a hold of the new DVD issue of The Last Waltz, and for a long time I saw that concert over and over and over again. And I listened to the band's albums on a daily basis. So it wasn't until I was around 28, 29 that I became the band enthusiast. Robbie Robertson, I don't really know if I care that much for him as a person, but I cannot deny that he's one of the best songwriters of the 20th century. He had a vision for the band, and that vision helped them record some true masterpieces. There's no doubt about that in the 1960s and early 1970s. Music from Big Pink and the band are masterpieces, no doubt about that either. But I like their less talked about album Stage Fright just as much. They had a bit of dip with Cahoots, and even if that album has some great tracks as well, like for instance When I Paint My Masterpiece. After the live album Rock of Ages and the cover album Moondog Matinee and a new cooperation with Bob Dylan, the album Northern Lights Southern Cross was a bit uneven, even if it contained some superb tracks as well. Levon Helm, the American in the group, was more or less the heart of the band, and Canadian Robbie Robertson the brain. And they were as different as two musicians could be. Levon Helm, I think, got rather bitter on Robbie Robertson. Well, not without reason, I might add, when he decided that it was time for the band to break up and end their touring with a grand finale, The Last Waltz. Levon Helm loved the life of touring and playing and probably wanted to continue, and he later reformed the band with Garth Hudson, Rich Emanuel and Rick Danko, but without Robbie Robertson. One can discuss for a long time whether that was a good idea or not. They were still a great band after all, but they lacked the visions that they got with Robbie Robertson. Today, only Garth Hudson and Robbie Robertson are left with us. Rich Emanuel, maybe one of the best voices ever, committed suicide very sadly in 1986. Rick Danko died suddenly in 1999, and Levon Helm succumbed from cancer in 2012. So all the three lovely blending voices are now gone. The story of the band is an intriguing one, but also a sad story when you think about the conflicts within the group, the problems, mainly between Robertson and Helm, but also the tragic end of the life of Rich Emanuel while on tour, I believe, in a hotel room. One gets affected by both the music and the people behind it. So, to wrap up all this, the band is on top of my list. I never get tired of the music. They were the best, at least according to me. Thank you for watching.